Ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk to you today about a force more powerful than fear, more enduring than pain, and more necessary today than ever before. I want to talk to you about courage. Not the kind of courage that shows up in movies with dramatic music and slow motion hero shots. I'm talking about real courage. The kind that wakes up with you in the morning when the alarm clock screams and your doubts whisper, "You're not enough." Let me ask you something. What would your life look like if fear wasn't driving the wheel? What would you do? What would you start? Where would you go if you had just 10 seconds of insane, unreasonable, uncompromising courage? Because let me tell you something about this world in 2025. We don't need more perfection. We need more people who dare. We don't need more opinions. We need more action. We don't need more scrolling. We need more standing up. Some of you walked in here today tired, not just physically, but tired in your spirit. Tired of pretending, tired of surviving, tired of saying, "I'm fine," when you're not. And I get it. Life has been throwing punches like it's trying to knock you out in the first round. Inflation, uncertainty, AI taking jobs, relationships on the rocks, dreams delayed, businesses failed. Life's been swinging. But let me remind you, you're still standing. You might be bent, but you're not broken. You're here. And that, my friend, is proof of courage. See, courage isn't about being fearless. Courage is feeling the fear and doing it anyway. It's walking into the storm with your knees shaking and your heart pounding and your faith louder than your doubt. I remember someone telling me once, courage doesn't roar. Sometimes it's the quiet voice at the end of the day that says, "I will try again tomorrow." And in this world we live in today, that kind of courage, that silent, persistent, unshakable strength, that's what builds empires. That's what breaks generational curses. That's what transforms ordinary people into legends. Now, let me talk to the dreamers in the room. Those of you who have been carrying visions in your heart, visions that scare you because they're so big. Maybe you want to start a business, go back to school, write a book, launch a movement. But every time you get close to starting, fear shows up like an uninvited guest and says, "Who do you think you are?" I'll tell you who you are. You are powerful. You are chosen. You are more capable than you know. But you will never find out until you leap, until you jump, until you give yourself permission to go for it. Even if your voice shakes, even if you're not ready, even if the world thinks you're crazy. Let me tell you the truth. You don't need a plan as much as you need the courage to begin. Plans can change, strategies can be adjusted. But if you never step up, you'll never find out what's possible. Courage doesn't guarantee you won't fall. It guarantees you won't quit. Because you're going to fall. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to have moments where you feel like giving up. But hear me when I say this. Failure is not the opposite of courage. It is the proof you dared to try. And in 2025, those who dare to try are the ones who will shape the future. Maybe you're dealing with pain right now, a loss, a betrayal, a setback, and you're wondering if you'll ever come back from it. Let me remind you of something powerful. Your pain has a purpose. Your setback is a setup. Your story, the mess, the chaos, the broken pieces, they are the very things that will give someone else the courage to rise. But you've got to go first. You've got to show up. You've got to speak, even when your voice shakes. You've got to rise, even when your legs feel like lead. Because someone out there is watching you, and they need your example to believe it's possible for them. Courage is contagious. One person choosing courage can ignite a room, a family, a company, a community. That's how movements start. Not with a crowd, but with one soul brave enough to begin. So don't wait for perfect conditions. Don't wait for applause. Don't wait until you feel ready. Do it scared. Do it unsure. Do it trembling. But do it anyway, because we don't get to live forever. And we don't get this day back. 2025 is not waiting for anyone. Either you step into your power or you stay stuck in your patterns. The clock is ticking. The world is shifting. And the question is not, will things change? The question is, will you? Courage is choosing growth over comfort. Courage is betting on yourself when nobody else will. Courage is saying yes to your purpose and no to your excuses. So today, right now, draw a line in the sand. Say to yourself, I'm not waiting for permission. I'm not asking for approval. I am choosing courage. I am choosing me, because you are not your past. You are not your failures. You are not your fears. You are the author of the next chapter. And if you have the courage to pick up the pen and write it, you will blow your own mind with what's possible. This is your time. This is your year. And if you have the courage to walk into your future, bold, broken, brave, and all, you won't just survive 2025. You'll own it. Fear is one of the most powerful forces on earth. It has kept countless dreams buried, silenced potential, and stopped people from becoming who they were born to be. Fear whispers in our ears with authority. It says, what if you fail? What if they laugh at you? What if you're not good enough? And for many people, those questions are enough to paralyze progress and hold purpose hostage. But fear by itself is not the problem. The problem is how we respond to it. The truth is, fear isn't going away. No matter how strong, smart, or successful you become, fear will always try to creep in when you're about to do something meaningful. It shows up when you apply for that position you've dreamed about. It shows up when you speak your truth. It shows up when you walk away from a situation that's been weighing you down. Fear knows exactly when to attack, when you're on the edge of something great. But here's the secret the bold ones know. You don't wait for fear to leave before you move. You don't need to be fearless. You just need to act anyway. That's courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's the decision to move forward despite it. It's hearing the voice of fear and refusing to obey it. Fear says, don't try, but you try anyway. Fear says, stay safe, but you step out anyway. Fear says, you're not ready, but you go for it anyway. That anyway is what separates the dreamers from the doers. It's the choice that rewrites your story. Most people wait for the fear to subside. They wait to feel confident, wait for clarity, wait until the risk disappears. But the truth is, that moment rarely comes. Confidence doesn't arrive first. It's built in the doing. You don't feel ready and then act. You act and then feel ready. Think about the greatest breakthroughs in history, the world changes, the innovators, the artists, the survivors. They all felt fear. They all heard the same lies, but they made a different choice. They chose to show up, speak out, rise up while afraid. They shook, but they stood. Their voices cracked, but they spoke. They doubted, but they dared. Because they understood that fear is not a signal to stop. It's a signal that you're on the edge of growth. Every time you act in the presence of fear, you weaken its grip. You train your mind to stop obeying it. You rewire yourself to move forward. And the more you do that, the more courage becomes your default, not fear. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is take one small step in the direction of what scares you. Make the call, submit the application, start the conversation, post the message, raise your hand. It's in those small moments of decision where your life shifts. Not when everything is certain, but when you move forward anyway. Fear is persuasive, but it doesn't have to be final. It will always tell you what you can't do, but courage will remind you of what you were born to do. And every time you act in defiance of fear, you reclaim your power. Not because the fear disappeared, but because you rose above it. Growth does not happen in convenience. It doesn't happen when everything is predictable, easy, or familiar. True transformation happens when we step beyond the boundaries of what we know into the uncertain, the uncomfortable, and the unfamiliar. And that step, that leap is called courage. It's not that the comfort zone is bad. It's just that nothing extraordinary lives there. Everything you dream of becoming, achieving, building, and creating, it's all waiting for you just outside of that circle of comfort you've drawn around your life. The problem is comfort feels good. It feels safe. It's where you know what to expect. It's where failure feels unlikely. It's where people approve of you, where your routines are stable, where your fears stay quiet. But comfort, while pleasant, is also a slow poison when you stay there too long. Because comfort never challenges you. It never pushes you. It never asks you to stretch, to reach, to wrestle with the unknown. And without that, your potential stays dormant. Courage is the key that unlocks that potential. It dares you to leave what you've always known for what you could become. It tells you to risk being uncomfortable in order to be unstoppable. It says yes when your comfort zone says no. It says grow when your habits say settle. It doesn't wait for the perfect moment. It creates the moment. Leaving the comfort zone can feel like losing control. That's because in that space, you no longer have guarantees. You might fail. You might get rejected. You might make mistakes. But that's where you learn. That's where you develop resilience. That's where you uncover strengths you didn't know you had. And you don't discover those things in the shallow end of life. You find them in the deep water where courage swims. Think of every meaningful achievement in your life. Think of the moments you were proud, the decisions that shaped you, the breakthroughs that changed everything. Almost always, they began with discomfort. They began when you said yes to something uncertain, when you pushed past the limits of what felt safe. And even if you didn't get it right the first time, you grew, you leveled up, you became more. Comfort whispers, stay where it's easy, but courage whispers louder. You were made for more. You weren't designed to simply survive in predictable patterns. You were designed to evolve. You were designed to rise, to rebuild, to reimagine what's possible. And that requires risk. That requires bold decisions. That requires walking away from what no longer serves you, even if it's familiar. The path of courage is uncomfortable, but it's also where fulfillment lives. It's where your next chapter begins. It's where you meet the version of yourself that's been waiting to be seen. And it all starts when you're willing to say, this is uncomfortable and I'm going anyway. Courage isn't loud. Sometimes it's the quiet choice to raise your standards, to leave the job that's draining you, to speak the truth that's been trapped inside your chest, to move toward the vision that keeps waking you up at night. It's not easy, but it's worth it. The world may try to convince you that comfort is the goal, that success means peace and predictability. But real success, deep, soul-level success, only comes when you embrace the discomfort of becoming, when you trade what's easy for what's meaningful. When you stop asking what's safe and start asking what's true. Pain is one of life's greatest teachers. though it rarely feels that way in the moment. When you're hurting, it's hard to see anything beyond the ache, the loss, the betrayal, the failure, the loneliness. Pain has a way of clouding your vision, making you question everything, your worth, your strength, your path. But beneath that pain is something deeper, something sacred. There is purpose. There is power. There is wisdom that can only be accessed when you choose not to run from the pain, but to face it, learn from it, and rise with it. We live in a world that tries to numb pain, distract from it, cover it up, push it down, pretend it's not there. But avoidance only prolongs the suffering. What we don't process, we repeat. What we bury, buries us. True courage is choosing to sit with the discomfort, to lean into the story behind the wound, and to find the message it's been trying to deliver. Pain often shows up uninvited, unexpected, and unwanted. But it's not random. It's not meaningless. Sometimes the very thing that tried to break you is the thing that's shaping you into who you were meant to become. Pain is not a detour from your destiny. It's part of the process. The moments that hurt the most are often the ones that build the most depth, empathy, and character in you. They strip away illusion. They expose truth. They humble you and sharpen your vision. Think about it. Some of the most resilient, inspiring, and powerful people you've ever met didn't get that way through ease. They got that way because they went through something. And instead of letting it define them, they let it refine them. They didn't just survive it, they used it. They found the lesson in the loss. They turned the breakdown into a breakthrough. And so can you. Pain gives you a deeper understanding of yourself and others. It opens your heart, not closes it, if you allow it to. The tears, the silence, the nights where sleep wouldn't come. Those moments taught you something about what matters, about who you are, about how strong you really are. Strength doesn't come from pretending you're unaffected. Strength comes from allowing yourself to feel and still choosing to move forward with clarity and compassion. Your story, every part of it, even the painful chapters, has the power to be someone else's survival guide. But first, you have to own it. Not with shame, not with regret, but with truth. You have to stop asking why it happened to you and start asking why it happened for you. That shift changes everything. It doesn't take away the hurt, but it gives it meaning. And when pain has meaning, it starts being something you run from and starts being something you rise from. You rise by renewing yourself to bring the best, most authentic, most valuable version of your story to being something you run from and starts being something you rise from. Purpose isn't just found in your victories. It's found in your valleys. That moment you thought you were done, that moment you felt empty, invisible, forgotten, that is the place where strength was born. That's where your real story began. The world doesn't need your perfection. It needs your authenticity. It needs to hear how you made it through, how you rebuilt after everything fell apart, how you chose hope when it would have been easier to quit. You're still here. That means your pain didn't win. That means you've got something valuable inside you, something earned, something true, something that can't be bought or borrowed. And when you stop hiding your wounds and start using them, you give others permission to do the same. The idea of being ready is an illusion that keeps too many people standing still. We convince ourselves we need more time, more money, more knowledge, more support before we take the first step. We tell ourselves we'll begin when things line up perfectly, when the fear goes away, when the confidence kicks in. But the truth is, if you wait until you feel completely ready, you'll never move. Because readiness doesn't come before the leap. It comes because of it. The people who create change, who build something meaningful, who rise above average, are not always the most prepared. They are the most willing. They are the ones who look at uncertainty and decide to go anyway. They trust the process more than the plan. They understand that the act of beginning is often the catalyst for everything else to unfold. You don't need to know every step before you start walking. You don't need to see the whole staircase to climb the first step. You just need to begin. Waiting for certainty is the enemy of progress. There will always be unknowns. There will always be risk. But what's riskier is staying stagnant. What's riskier is living in the regret of never trying. You don't grow by standing still. You grow by moving forward, even when it's messy, even when it's imperfect, even when your hands are shaking and your voice is trembling. Because momentum builds confidence, not the other way around. So many people spend their lives preparing to live. They gather ideas, attend seminars, read books, make plans, and still never take action. They confuse preparation with progress. But progress demands movement. It demands decisions. It demands you step into the arena even when the outcome is unclear. The dream doesn't move closer while you wait. It waits for you to step toward it. Courage often shows up in the form of starting with what you have, where you are, with whatever resources or clarity you can gather. It's about trusting that you will learn more as you go, that you will grow stronger in the doing, not just the thinking. Every master was once a beginner. Every leader once doubted themselves. Every story that inspired the world began with one step taken before the person felt fully qualified. There's a certain kind of magic that happens when you leap before you're ready. You open yourself up to discovery. You find out what you're really made of. You give life a chance to meet you halfway. And yes, you'll make mistakes, you'll stumble, you'll get things wrong, but that's part of becoming. The goal isn't to avoid failure. The goal is to refuse stagnation. Every stumble teaches. Every setback strengthens. Every experience prepares you for what's next. You are not supposed to have it all figured out before you begin. You're supposed to begin so that you can figure it out. The questions that seem too big, the challenges that feel overwhelming, many of them shrink once you start moving, because movement brings clarity. Action reveals answers that thinking alone cannot. When you start before you're ready, you learn to build faith, not just in the process, but in yourself. You're not behind. You're not too late. And you don't need anyone's permission. You have everything inside you to take the next step. The key is to trust that you'll grow into the person you need to be once you begin walking the path. You don't wait for life to deliver the perfect moment. You create the moment by deciding to start, no matter what your past looks like, no matter how many mistakes you've made, how many failures you've faced, or how many people have counted you out, you still hold the pen. Your story is not finished. And the power to write what comes next belongs to no one but you. Too often, people believe their past defines them. They let old pain, old habits, and old identities dictate who they can become. But you are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to become from it. Every new day is a blank page. What you write on it is up to you. You don't have to keep repeating the same story. You don't have to stay trapped in patterns that no longer serve you. You don't have to keep playing small because someone once made you feel unworthy. You have the right and the responsibility to shift the narrative, to say, this is not how my story ends. To look your past in the eye and say, thank you for the lessons, but I'm moving forward now. Being the author means you take ownership. You stop blaming the world, your upbringing, the economy, or the people who walked away. You stop giving your power to things you can't control and start focusing on what you can, your attitude, your choices, your next move. That's where your freedom lives. That's where your transformation begins. It doesn't matter how many pages you've wasted. It doesn't matter if the last chapter was full of pain or chaos or silence. The next one can be different if you decide it will be. You don't need to wait for a sign. You don't need to wait for the world to validate your decision. You just need to decide that your life is worth more than just surviving. That you were not born to repeat cycles. You were born to break them. And the moment you believe that is the moment your next chapter begins to shift. Your power is not in the past. It's in the present. It's in your ability to pick up the pen and write a new ending. The most powerful stories are not the ones where everything was perfect. They're the ones where someone chose to rise, where someone got back up after falling, after failing, after losing everything. They're the ones where courage outshined comfort, where purpose grew out of pain, and where someone who was written off became unstoppable. That can be your story. But you have to write it. You have to believe you're worth that kind of comeback. It won't be easy. There will be days when you want to write the same old lines. Days when fear tells you to play it safe. Days when the past tries to pull you backward. But you have to keep writing. You have to keep showing up for yourself. You have to keep choosing growth, truth, and alignment, even when it's hard. Because every word you write now is shaping who you become next. You are not stuck. You are not broken. You are not too late. You are simply in a transition between chapters, and the pen is in your hands. That means the direction, the pace, the voice, it's all up to you. Others may try to influence your story. They may throw in criticism, comparison, or doubt. But no one can finish your book except you.